Most people looking to move to Toronto really know the big name areas and neighborhoods. The Lee Sides, the Roncesvalles, the High Parks, Leslievilles. Toronto has, depending on who you ask, 140, 150, almost 160 different neighborhoods. And there are plenty in the city
that provide lots of charm, lots of access to transit and great amenities and plenty of value. So today we're going to cover 7 different hidden gem neighborhoods in Toronto that I think have great potential. They're already kind of on the rise and definitely provide a great balance between what you can get and what you'd have to pay to get into those neighborhoods. So the first area we're going to cover is Junction Triangle. This is on the west side of the city. It obviously neighbors onto the Junction, which is not a hidden gem. It's definitely a very well-known neighborhood in Toronto, but I'm going to show you on the map here. So the first thing I'm going to do is zoom out so that I can just show you, okay, Toronto at scale. Here's where it is. And then if you can kind of see on the left, that little triangle shape that's kind of punched out there. And if I zoom in, you can kind of see High Park just to the southwest, like the actual park, High Park North, the neighborhood, due west, Roncesvalles immediately below it. And that's one point that I wanted to bring up is for all of these neighborhoods, for the most part, with the exception of, I think, one, all of them are surrounded by very well-established neighborhoods. And that is a bonus for all these kind of hidden gems, is that even if one of these areas, it probably has a lower barrier of entry from a price standpoint. Maybe it doesn't have all the exact amenities that you need, but you're a very short, you're a short walk or one bus or one subway stop or one streetcar stop or whatever away from these really well-established areas like Leslieville and Roncesvalles and High Park and Roncy and etc. So that's something that's prevalent throughout pretty much every neighborhood that I'm going to mention, but certainly no exception would be Junction Triangle. Now, my favorite thing about the Junction Triangle, or at least one of my favorite things about the Junction Triangle, is right here. It has fantastic access to transit. So you've got the Up Express, which connects Union and Pearson. You've got the a GO station there that you can catch, and then you're also on the Bloor line, which is your east-west subway. So really, really great transit access. That's a fantastic thing that Junction Triangle provides. I would also say that another great feature is this kind of green line right along here that kind of extends all the way beside the tracks. So that is the rail path. And basically that is a walking, biking trail, however it is that you want to use it. But right in the middle of this kind of very urban area, you've got a really nice, I don't want to call it green space because it's not really a park, but it's just an area for you to be able to stretch your legs, take the stroller, take the bike, just go for a walk yourself with your friends, whatever. So it's a really nice kind of amenity and thing that is in that area for sure. You've got great kind of restaurants, fun things to do, bars, etc. It's all kind of there. It's highly walkable. And the other thing I like about the Junction Triangle is that it has a really nice mix of different property types. So you've got some condos, you've got townhouses, pretty much all condo townhouses, and then freehold properties as well. And the interesting thing about the condos is that they're all pretty unique. They are church conversions, they're hard loft buildings, not your kind of standard run-of-the-mill cookie cutter type condos. Now, to that point, your average condo, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, whatever, in Junction Triangle is actually pretty expensive. The average going back to September of last year, 2024, is $930,000. Now for your townhome, it can run $961,000 on average, not that different from your condos. So because the townhouses are a little bit more, for lack of a better phrase, cookie cutter, your average freehold property would be 1.3 million. To put that in context, let's say Junction, which is a nearby, very well-established neighborhood. For a freehold property, you're looking at 1.45 million. So that's a difference of about $150,000. And the condos, there aren't that many condos in the Junction, and what is there are not nearly as unique of a type of building as what's in Junction Triangle. So your average condo in Junction is actually less expensive than it is in Junction Triangle, runs about $837,000. So Junction Triangle, great neighborhood, definitely a hidden gem in Toronto.
So next on the list, and I'm going to cheat a little bit and sort of blend two in together because they're very, very close. They're basically back to back. Bloordale and Bloor Court. If you couldn't guess, they're along Bloor Street, which is kind of a major east-west street in Toronto. And Bloordale kind of runs, here it is here, at least the little kind of commercial strip, runs between Dufferin and this is Lansdowne on the west side. And then Bloor Court is kind of one stretch over to the east, basically runs from Dufferin all the way up to, in my opinion, Ossington, because anything east of Ossington would kind of be that Christie Pitts area. So if I zoom, and these are on west side, so if you know Christie Pitts, first of all, you can see Junction Triangle right there. Here's Roncesvalles and Little Portugal and Little Italy and etc. There's Christie Pitts that I just mentioned before. So it's kind of smack in the middle of all of those spots. Let me get rid of those. And for me, and the housing in this section basically runs kind of something like this. Okay, now I didn't lump those two areas together in terms of their values, and I'll get to that in a second. But both of these areas I find a little bit similar in the sense they've got a very great kind of indie vibe, vintage shops. There's some like eco-friendly businesses. There's like a soap refiller place that is zero waste, for example. There's, very kind of diverse artistic kind of feel to it. Certainly Bloor Court has like access to some great parks. So for example, right here, there's Dovercourt Park. Right here is Dufferin Grove. Dufferin Grove has a really good farmer's market. So there's some great green space in Bloor Court. Bloordale,
not as much green space as Bloor Court. Definitely some great stuff, some great access to amenities in those areas. And you're on the Bloor subway line, so you have really good access to transit as well, which is fantastic.
Now, from a property value standpoint, Bloordale, which is on the west, is a little bit cheaper than Bloor Court, which is a little bit cheaper than Christie Pitts, for example. So your average price in Bloordale is around 1.47 million, so a little bit under 1.5. And then if you go just east to Bloor Court, it's about 1.58 million. So there's about a $100,000 difference. And then if you go kind of one stretch over to Christie Pitts, you're looking at 1.68. So there's a $100,000 kind of swing in freehold properties as you start at Christie Pitts and move your way west. No question that Bloordale is more accessible than this kind of surrounding areas, and to the tune of around $200,000 on average compared to a well-established area like around Christie Pitts. So up next on the list is one more west side area. It's Weston. Now, I will admit that I think Weston is a little bit more of a up and coming area. It's not as well as established because I do think that it has some charm to it, and there's some great kind of amenities and reasons why you would want to live there. But it's certainly, if I had to kind of rank all of the areas that I'm going to be talking about today in terms of like most desirable to least desirable, I probably would put Weston at the bottom of the list. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve to be on it. I just think it's got a little bit more of that rough around the edges, up and coming kind of character to it, if you will. So when we're looking at the map, we're going to zoom out just to kind of orient ourselves again. So here's kind of the whole city. You can kind of tell the outline that's in the northwest part. And if we take a look at, for example, the Junction Triangle is there. You'll recognize that spot there. So if I kind of slowly zoom out, you'll see that Weston is like due northwest, still on the same rail line, which is like another reason I really love Weston is because of that right there. You've got the Up Express, the GO, and subway access there. So it's really great in that respect. And you're not going to be that far away from Eglinton. So Eglinton, for example, is just down here. This area down here is called Mount Dennis. And we've got an LRT coming up. It's another subway that's going to run east-west across Eglinton Avenue. We've been waiting for it for a decade. It's supposed to be ready in September. We'll see. But you'd only be kind of like one stop from Weston to Mount Dennis, and then you'd be able to get on the Eglinton LRT and go east-west across Toronto as well. So that's a pretty great bonus of being at Weston from a transit standpoint. Now, the other great thing you'll notice is that you've got the Humber River all kind of beside it on the west. It creates this really nice, like, kind of natural green border on that west side. And so you've got parks, trails, you've got the river itself. There's a really great park here, Weston Lions Park. I admittedly was not aware of that park until I had a listing in a condo building in and around that area. And when I was looking for, great stuff to add to the videos that I was doing, I came across this Weston Lions Park, and it's amazing. It's this huge area. There's walking trails, there's baseball diamonds, there's outdoor pools, there's a skate park, there's all kinds of stuff that would be really attractive for people of all ages and families and etc. So really great, underrated, undiscovered, at least for me, outdoor green space for sure. Those are some of the things that kind of make Weston such a great kind of up and coming hidden gem neighborhood in Toronto. Up next on the list, we're going to move slightly central east and closer to downtown. So actually south, closer to the lake. And it's an area called Corktown. So Corktown, I would say, is predominantly condos. There is a little bit of freehold properties there, but I'm going to focus on kind of the condo aspect of it because it is very condo dense. It is, as far as orientation goes, so if you look at the map, I'll keep it there for a second because you can see right here, let me circle it, it's right above the distillery district. You can see St. Lawrence is here, so that's kind of the St. Lawrence Market area, and then here's like downtown. This is the Gooderham building, which is the Flatiron building. So you can tell like you're kind of downtown, and it's right there in terms of like it being quite central. When I zoom in, for me, the Corktown area kind of extends a little bit. So I would go all the way across the Don Valley and then cut across front up Parliament. And Queen runs across the top. So basically all the properties that are there, like I said, there's some freehold sprinkled in and around there, but it's mostly condos. There is a fabulous park right here called the Corktown Common, and there's all kinds of trails. There's a dog park. There is like outdoor playgrounds, and there's splash pads, and just lots of stuff for all kinds of different people in terms of like, what your outdoor space needs would be. And then walking distance from there are restaurants and some bars. There was a great brewery, unfortunately closed. My kids are super disappointed because they loved going there and going to play like foosball and pinball while my wife and I had a beer. It was great. They closed. We were really sad. But anyway, that area is totally underrated in my opinion, and that park is also very underrated in my opinion as well. Now, again, it being condo dense, one bedroom condos run you just a little under $560,000, so $558,000. Two bedrooms run about $787,000 on average. But if you think about the distillery district, which is nearby, one bedroom condos run on average $587,000. So that's almost a $30,000 difference between distillery and Corktown. And then two bedrooms in distillery run on average $939,000. So you can be literally steps to the distillery district and pay tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars less to be in a one or two bed condo and still have the same kind of great access to all the different things that are around you. So Corktown, hidden gem, very underrated. So next up on the list, we're going to go east to Danforth East. Not to be confused with just kind of Danforth. Danforth is basically Bloor Street, but once you hit the Don Valley, the name of the street changes to Danforth. The street that starts at the Don Valley and runs all the way east, kind of like towards Scarborough and into Scarborough. So when I say Danforth East, it's just kind of a strip of Danforth on the east side of that whole Danforth, East York area. If you just Google East Danforth, this is kind of the area that you get. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, this section right here would not be part of East Danforth for me personally. Now, different people have different opinions about where certain neighborhoods start and stop and what is included and was not included, etc. But for me, that section there is a little bit more kind of like Danforth, and I wouldn't even call it Central Danforth because nobody calls anything Central Danforth, but I just don't think it's part of that east section. So for me, it starts at Coxwell. So I'll zoom in here. Here's Coxwell right there, and then kind of cuts across, goes all the way over to Dawes. So I'll just kind of draw that section. There's Dawes Road there, and then kind of goes across, about there, probably a little bit south, just along Milverton, Doncaster, etc., around there. So one thing that I like about East Danforth is there's a great park right here called Eastland Park, and right in this kind of south section is a really good, like, strong community vibe. There's markets at Eastland Park. It's a very busy park with kids and families and that kind of stuff. All along the Danforth, you have very good transit access. So if you look at, here's Coxwell Station, there's a station here at Woodbine, and then right here you can see Danforth Go. So if you had access to that area in and around there, you can get downtown with like basically one stop. It's Danforth Go and then Union Station, traveling west to downtown. So that's a pretty kind of handy trick for being able to get downtown, but living a reasonable distance outside of the like central, more expensive part of Old Toronto, I guess, which is west of Don Valley. There's some kind of great restaurants, great bars all along Danforth. And what's interesting and what I like is that as you travel east along Danforth itself, the food probably in this section, so between like, I would say Woodbine, but even like kind of Maine and Dawes, so in and around here, the food in the different places gets a little bit more diverse, multicultural, which is one of Toronto's strengths. Pakistani, Bangladeshi, like East Indian food, that kind of stuff. So there's some really great kind of ethnic options for food as you go east along Danforth as well. Now, property values. So bearing in mind that this section over here, so east of Woodbine, is going to be less expensive than this section over here, which is west of Woodbine. So you're actually going to have, there's a little bit of a dividing line, which is Woodbine that I would consider. But if I look at the average of those two areas combined, you're looking at about, for freehold properties, 1.2 million. There's not a lot of condos in there. But if you look at, for example, just this section, just that pocket alone, which is a pretty attractive area, because you've got Monarch Park and really good schools and stuff like that in that area. The average is 1.28. So you're looking at almost $100,000 difference for like maybe even less than one subway stop to the west. So great value in East Danforth for sure compared to nearby neighborhoods. Last stop on our list is Riverside. So this is still an east side neighborhood, but it's just east of the Don Valley. So I'll show you on a map here. So you'll see that here is kind of downtown in central Toronto. Over here is Corktown, where we talked about before. Here's Riverside right there. So it's just east of the Don Valley. I'll zoom in. It's kind of bordered by Gerrard to the north and Eastern to the south, and then this is Logan Avenue right here on the east side. The one thing that I'll kind of point out, mostly so that I don't forget, because it's just in the kind of early phases of being built and undergoing construction and stuff like that, is that the Ontario line, which is another subway transit project that's happening, is going to run basically along this section here, and there's going to be a lot of construction and stuff like that in and around that space there. So, you want to be mindful that, this project is probably going to take years and years. So if you're thinking of coming into that area, it just might be an area to potentially avoid. It will give you great access to downtown and great access to get up and out of the city as well, but it's going to take some time. It's going to be pretty disruptive. But regardless, in and around this area, you've got great restaurants, you've got pretty upscale restaurants, there's local markets, there's some revamped areas like the Broadview Hotel, for example, which has been redone and is a nice restaurant and has really beautiful kind of rooftop views. So you can see the city skyline, you can see the lake and all that kind of stuff from there. There's breweries nearby. There's some really nice amenities in this area. And you'll see if I kind of zoom out a little bit on the map that there's North Riverdale right there. So a lot of people often refer to that whole section as Riverdale. Some people kind of split it in north and south, some people don't. But Riverside is kind of the area that's tucked away on the east, right up against the Don Valley. property values in terms of Riverside. So 1.42 million is like your typical freehold property in that area. If you look at nearby, so for example, North Riverdale, which I just pointed out, your average price is 1.76. So that's like a $340,000 difference on average. So there's no question that you can find great value in Riverside. Now, if I look just to the east, Leslieville, very well-established, very desirable neighborhood, the average price there is actually 1.4 million. So you might think, oh, well, it's less, Leslieville is cheaper. Not necessarily. Leslieville, in my mind, has more kind of major streets running through it, especially north-south. The properties that sell on kind of major streets like Jones and Pape and, you know, those ones that run through Leslieville will sell at a lower price. So it's also a larger neighborhood, so you're going to have more kind of sample size in Leslieville. Pretty equivalent price points between Leslieville and Riverside. There you have it, 6, kind of 7 hidden gem neighborhoods in Toronto. And if you are a type of person who would like to be ahead of the curve, you don't want to be where everyone else is looking, maybe you want to save some money, those are some areas that you definitely, I think, want to focus in on. So if you'd like some help with your search, help with purchasing a property, I would love to be of assistance. You can find the link in the description where you can book a consult. And if you found this video helpful, I would be thrilled if you would like it, if you would subscribe to the channel. And I would also love it if you would comment. If you're familiar with some of these areas, which one would you want to live in? And is there a hidden gem that you think I missed? I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Look forward to seeing you on the next one.